Ew, is RuPaul here? Is he recording with us? Oh shit, he's about to enter the room.
He lives in you.
RuPaul's Force Ghost is here.
Maybe the real RuPaul was the friends we made along the way.
That's like the plot of the Bad Batch. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of RuPaul's Pod Race, a queer Star Wars podcast. I am Ollie, and I am here with 5 amazing Star Wars fans who are all queer. And we want to talk to you today about Star Wars, about what's going on, and just the energy that we are all bringing to the table today. Happy May the 4th. We are so ecstatic that you will probably not be hearing our first episode on May the 4th, but you will know that it was recorded on May the 4th. So let's go ahead. I would like to introduce our esteemed hosts. I suppose I will go first. My name is Ollie. My pronouns are they, them. And my gender this week, which is a segment that we would like to get started with, a weekly fun gender update. My gender this week is the fruity little blacks that the Bad Batch was wearing underneath their armor when they got thrown in prison. So now I'm going to move on. Everyone is laughing, but they are all muted, which does make me feel kind of bad, like I'm not funny, but I promise audience, they are laughing. I'm going to pass it along to Mel.
Hello. Hi, my name is Mel. I use they, them pronouns. And we were all laughing. I do think it's good that we muted because it would sound like earblood if we didn't. And my gender this week is RuPaul fracking on Ilum. Who's next? Jess?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jess. My pronouns are they, them. And my gender this week is Tarkin. Definitely eyeing all the clones like the hot man candy they are.
I'm Noah. My pronouns are he, him, and my gender this week is the mouse droid that spies on Tarkin while he sleeps with clone troopers.
How am I supposed to go last after all that? Hi, I'm Klaudia. My pronouns are she, her. My gender this week is, of course, Anakin with the martini glass in Voyage of Temptation. Just having a really grand old time when Obi-Wan and Satine are having their little tiff.
I really appreciate everyone's gender. I'm now thinking maybe we shouldn't mute because it does feel a little bit upsetting when you tell a joke and no one laughs.
Terrible.
So
Horrifying.
in case you guys couldn't tell, this is our first recording. So we are still kind of figuring stuff out. So we really hope you will bear with us. But we're excited to be here. We're just gonna have a fun time, shoot the shit about Star Wars. Something that happened today. Bad Batch came out.
It did.
So what's up with that? Honestly, I will say just my initial reaction. I was not very excited for the Bad Batch. Like after watching the Bad Batch arc in Clone Wars, I was like, Crosshair was like, oh, why did Commander Cody have to call us in if you guys are so good? And Jesse was like, you can't talk to Captain Rex that way. And I was like, yeah, you can't talk to Captain Rex that way. So I wasn't super excited for it. But 2 minutes into the first episode, I was like, I'm ride or die for these guys.
I felt the same way about the Mandalorian. I was like, ugh, another show about a man. And then they immediately did it. And I was like, I would die for these motherfuckers. I would. And I know that's what they do every time. And they announced the Bad Batch. And I was like, ugh, more shows about men, really? And then I was like, yeah, but I'm going to want to die for them anyway. So you got me again, mouse.
For me, I had a very similar reaction to the Bad Batch because when I first saw it in season 7, I'm not going to lie, I skipped the entire arc my first run through because I was like, where is Ahsoka? Where did she go? So I was not even willing to entertain the thought of other characters. I was like, where is my woman? So I had to go back and watch it.
The homophobia. No, not the lesbophobia, the homophobia.
I was like, in what world?
This is another, Hunter is a he, him lesbian. Stop. Anyway.
That is true though.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. So I was the same way as coming into this. I was like, well, they're characters, and then literally I saw them in Order 66, and I was like, my children, people I would die for, people they would kill for. So now I'm very much like, if you touch them, I'll murder you. That's where I'm at in my journey with the good batch, the dad batch, the sad batch, assorted puns about the word batch. That's where I'm going.
I very much felt the same way too, where I could not have cared less about them in their arc in the Clone Wars. But after watching the show, was just like, oh my god, I now love all of you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. Did anyone actually like the Bad Batch? Was anyone like after the Clone Wars arc about the Bad Batch? Was anyone excited about
arc.
the show?
I did. I liked the arc. I thought it was fun and funky fresh.
It's not the case.
Okay, to be fair, I think they announced this before season 7 aired. I believe so. And it wasn't like I was like, oh, I hate them. I was just like, oh, another show about dudes. And then I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, this will be cool. Whatever. It wasn't like I hated them. I was just like, I wanted something else. But then they announced all the rest of their projects. And then we found out a little bit more about it. And then I was like, oh, this is about the clones' transition into the Empire. Oh, that's extremely my shit. Absolutely. 100% Dave. Give it to me. Absolutely.
I think I was like on board with the idea of the show, like when it was building. And then we saw that most recent trailer, not the character one before that. And I was like, Captain Rex is here. Like, that for me was the minute I was like, I am tuning in. I am paying attention. And I don't know why, but Klaudia, you being like another show about men gave me my flash forward to my worst fear, which is Girlboss Ahsoka as like the main character of the Ahsoka show.
Please.
Like
no.
I want them to give me like an entire show of just that one moment from Endgame where like, we have female characters.
Please.
And that's it. That's
do not manifest that.
To be fair, Dave would never do that to us.
Posing around the galaxy. She's gonna go stand places and look cool and do nothing aside from that. That's all I want. I want Girlboss.
Ahsoka would never gaslight gatekeep Girlboss. She would never.
But she's friends with a lot of people who would. Like her and Bo, like I'm not gonna say that they're friends, but like in The Mandalorian, at least fucking Bo knew where she was. So what I'm saying is that Ahsoka is going to assemble.
Hey, can you guys stop manifesting this shit? Thank you.
Girl bosses assemble. Yes.
Her team of girl bosses.
Based Russo brothers.
Yeah, were they gonna make her like attracted to a man? Like they're gonna be like, we gotta keep it consistent, and
they're gonna bring Lux Venturi back, and then I'm gonna have to walk into the ocean.
Does he die in Inferno Squad? I can't remember.
I think
Lux Venturi, I believe, is still alive.
I do believe he is still alive. Someone check the Wookiee.
If he comes back, I'm walking into the ocean.
I thought he dies at the end of Inferno Squad. Literally,
so here's another like fun thing to know about us is we don't know jack shit about Star Wars.
That's not true. I know a lot. So, I am the reason that all of TikTok knows that Tarkin is gay. So speak for yourself.
We will get to that at some point today.
Let's recenter. We were talking about the Bad Batch, but because we are 5 gay people, there is something wrong with us. So we do just speak. So let's get back. We have a Google Doc. We do share one brain cell. We have a Google Doc here that says the Bad Bitch with a couple bullet points. So let's go ahead and go through them. The first one is it's gay. Yes, I agree. The next one.
My stance on that is just that because, so Star Wars is gay because I'm gay and I said so, which is sort of like the thesis of our podcast here. Like nothing about the Bad Batch is explicitly homosexual. Just I watched it and I was like, yep. Well, I mean, that's not true. There is one explicitly homosexual thing in the Bad Batch, and that is Grand Moff Tarkin, because he is our representation in the show, giving us everything.
Willie Tarkin, please, sir. Anything but that. God.
Did y'all see his little smirk at them? That's a gay man.
I watched that and I was like, this is definitely fruity. Like that's the vibe I got from him.
I know we all saw Tarkin when he walked in and was about to send the batch on that meeting, and he walked up to Wrecker and was looking at his chest, and I was like, get away from him, get a job, don't talk to him. Honestly, that was borderline hate crime. I just can't with that.
Tarkin is the most homophobic gay man I've ever set my own eyes on.
Like Ryan Murphy of Star Wars.
Shut up, don't even.
Ryan Murphy of Star Wars. I hate it.
Jess and I were talking about this actually. It's saying like I think I may have said it to some of you as well, but like Tarkin makes me homophobic. Like I'm homophobic against Tarkin. So anyway, the Bad Batch, we all love it, right, guys? So, okay, let's get back on track. The next point we have is found family, which I think there's a lot of in there. We got
Which is
lots of
inherently
bad
homosexual.
energy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Correct.
It's like that's inherently gay shit. Like, oh, like fat be like, oh, you're my family now. Oh, a child. Oh, you're my family now. Oh, this child is definitely trans. Oh, you're my family now. I was like, oh, this is a homosexual show. I understand.
I do hope that as the show goes on, they maybe show us a little bit of like the Bad Batch coming together, because as far as I know, they weren't all created at the same time. And I don't know which one came first. I mean, Hunter gives me big gruff dad energy, like that's my little crack theory. But I sort of want to know like how did we do this? Like what was the formation? Like that I'm curious about how they became the Bad Batch.
The other
Probably
thing
not.
too, I think about that too, is because they're called Clone Force 99 and they're named after 99, who died when the Separatists came to Kamino, which was already like, I believe, a year or 2 years into the war. So this wasn't, I assume that they were named after his death in honor of him. So that also adds like, how long has Clone Force 99 been around? Like, what is their deal? We know them pretty much exclusively from like the one mission they did, and we know they've done more based on the amount of tallies that Wrecker put on their wall in that scene when he was like, oh, we did 11 missions. But I would like to know where that comes from. Like what's the vibe? We love a found family, but we also love finding the found family.
We need
we
need a lore drop.
New Bad Batch lore dropped.
Yeah, no,
Dave,
for sure. I would love that. I do also, I sort of look at them because they really do fill the like archetypical 5-man band structure. You have your leader, Lancer, big guy, smart guy, and Heart, but there's 6 of them now. So theoretically, one of them's gonna drop off. And as much as I want them to de-chip Crosshair, I'm more seeing a dramatic confrontation where someone ends up dead than I do.
Like a magical girl archetypes, guys. Omega's
Oh
the
my God.
Chibiusa here, guys. As I said, they're the Winx Club. They're the Sailor Senshi. They're actually more like magical girls.
They really are the Winx Club. I want them to have wings.
They literally said, "Oh, we can't fight without our outfits." Like they literally said it. Like there's nothing
That's gay.
Yes,
that's gay.
That is
yes.
Gay.
Oh my God.
Same like, brain cell, all of us.
There's always the one who's like the leader, and there's like the leader one. So the, Hunter is Sailor Venus.
Can someone find and make like an edit of him where he has the Sailor Venus costume on? That's all I really want. I want the Bad Batch in Sailor Moon outfits canonically. I want that in the show animation.
Wrecker in the Sailor Jupiter.
Guys, we need to get, we are, this is so valid. This is so valid. Honestly, I don't think I've ever felt more valid.
Which one is Chibiusa though? Oh, or no, Usagi? Is that Echo?
Honestly, I feel like that makes sense. I will come out and say it. My knowledge of Sailor Moon is quite low.
Well, then you've come to the right place.
Same.
The one thing, the one thing I know as much lore about as Star Wars is Sailor Moon.
The two genders, Star Wars and Sailor Moon.
I know quite a lot of lore. So when I see a couple of boys and people are like, well, they could be like Voltron, they could be like Power Rangers. I'm like, no, honey, they are magical girls. Like,
let's not invoke Voltron here. This is a safe space.
That is a hate
I don't want to. Despite the fact that I made the comparison today that Pidge and Tech are the same character, I don't really want to like bring that energy into the studio today. I become very uncomfortable.
Sailor Mercury. Sailor Mercury.
I also do I think that this brings up a good point. A good sort of transition, which is another note we have, which is whose goddamn white baby is that? Which is something that you had mentioned talking about Tech, I do love Tech. Whose blonde child is that? I got a lot of problems with Tech, but he definitely looks like they ran out of Django juice. I really
Django juice.
Why is Omega a darker skin tone than Tech? There are already so few good people of color in Star Wars that are prevalent characters that have their own properties, and they're like, we're gonna remove some of the only ones we've got going right now. We're gonna be done with that. And I'm like, for what? What was the point? Do your art correctly, Dave.
For $1, I would like Lucasfilms to color match a character of color who has a live action counterpart. Just once. I would like to. And also, so this is just something I noticed in the episode, and it really was like, I was rewatching it right before we started recording because I was like, okay, I won't lie, it was like 2 a.m. and I completely dissociated halfway through because I was like, oh my god, we saw Kanan. Like
another goddamn white baby.
Except for he's Italian culture, so.
Kanan is like me, he's a spicy white.
An aioli, if you will.
Anyway, Mel.
Anyways, as I was saying,
sorry.
In the cafeteria scene, like Omega's like having her girl boss moment at the table where they get called the sad batch, which I'm sorry, clone bullying fucking sucks, apparently.
The ableism. It was like the equivalent of like calling, like, I was like, wow, I was like, oh, intersecting identity, inter-community discourse, there's a lot here.
Yeah.
Dave, did you mean to do such a good commentary on disability and race and intersectionalism? Dave, was that your intention, or did you just stumble into something much like I believe every Star Wars writer does? Dave read one it was like, maybe I should think about feminism. Girl clown. Got it.
Got him.
Sexism
Got him
over.
My she-they icon, Omega, I would die for.
Yes, she-they icon, Omega.
The fact that when I see people referring to Omega by their canon pronouns, which are she, her, I feel like it's a crime against me. I'm like, I'm still going to continue to call Omega they, them. And
the council has made a decision. That being said, I've chosen to ignore the decision.
That's just Star Wars. That's all of it. Like, I know you've released The Rise of Skywalker. I do choose to ignore it.
So sad that Kylo Ren died in the first movie. Like,
yeah, that was actually crazy when Finn killed Kylo Ren. That was cool. And then he was a Jedi.
Love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, when Finn used the Darksaber to kill Kylo Ren, that was pretty sick.
That was so cool. I love when Finn got the Darksaber and then was like, yes, these are my dads, Din Djarin and Luke Skywalker. And this, like, I loved that. And then he kissed his husband, Poe, on the lips right in the screen. It was like 30 minutes long. It was kind of crazy, but it was good.
And then Rey said gay rights, and it was like, boo, 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 boo.
And then she turned around and kissed Rose. It was awesome. Oh,
that would have been great if they let Rose go outside for the entire last movie. They literally kept Rose in like a cardboard box for all the Rise of Skywalker. That was like open in case of emergency, and they just like let her out. Like, where was she? But anyway, it's a bad batch.
Even during the fucking emergency, she wasn't there. Where was she?
Literally, they were like, we're gonna show one shot of her like running, character development. We have done representation. We really won. Like, okay.
We
honestly,
did it, Joe.
This is sort of on topic to the whitewashing problem in the Bad Batch, because I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans will give Lucasfilm and Disney so much credit for the bare minimum. They were like, oh my god, you like Saw Gerrera, a black man, appeared in the show. You guys are like super woke. And it's like,
Kevin Feige's about to get his GLAAD award for the Eternals. Come on, you know it's happening. You know it's happening.
Stop manifesting. Ex-white man
no, I'm not
receives GLAAD
manifesting.
award.
I'm saying you have to accept it so that when it happens, it doesn't hurt you as much.
You know, you're talking about this like it's like you're talking about this like, oh, we need to manifest. Like, you're talking about like, oh, my favorite character is gonna die, not freaking Kevin Feige receiving a GLAAD award. I can't, like, I'm not prepared. Joe Russo's the only gay icon that we need from Marvel, and I can't. I'm really not prepared for another one.
Okay.
I hate to hear so goddamn much.
Okay, I don't know how this got to Joe Russo. Let's bring it back to the bad bitch.
We are talking about the batch.
Mel was talking about.
I never finished my point.
You were talking about when Omega was like food fight, and they were like, "This is a Nickelodeon show."
Well, see, I was having more of a moment where I was like, "Wait, there is a difference in skin tone of the normal clones and them." Pause. So you do know that the clones are different shade, and you've chosen to say actually. And like in the promo pictures, I was like, okay, I'm seeing that we're closer in foundation tone. Like, we're getting closer. I am pretty light. I'm half white though, so like I've got that excuse. Who is Craig Dooku? Is Craig Dooku the Bad Batch's father? Question mark. Like, other dad? What's happening?
I didn't notice that at first, but now that you mention it, yeah, like I'm thinking back, and the like the regs were significantly darker than I would love. I would absolutely die if they were like, this is Omega, and their mutation is that they're white. That's like the entire, like they're not even like.
We already have
oh,
Rex. We don't need another one.
Leave my blonde alone.
That's the fucking crazy thing, though. During the Bad Batch arc, when I first watched it, I fucking hated Hunter because I was like, the thing that makes him special is just he's white passing. And like, because there is a shot, I'm trying to think what, I think it's in the first episode of the Bad Batch arc, where like Rex and Hunter are standing next to each other, and Hunter is a full white man, and Rex, who is fucking barely, does not pass the paper bag test. He looks so brown. I was like, whoa, hold up.
I guess my point is, Dave Filoni, welcome to the Resistance. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us. We love
Dave Filoni
you.
through the first brick at Stonewall. I know that for a fact.
Please.
Does anyone else feel like representation in Star Wars like a monkey's paw, where you're like,
Absolutely.
wow, I sure wish we had like allegorical characters for disability, and that like it closes and it's like they shall be white. that was what happened in that studio office.
This is what I said about Marvel. It happened with all the Marvel movies. Obviously, it happened in Star Wars before, whatever. It's like, we already have this about gender and about race, where it's like, oh, you're going to get a woman, you're going to get a person of color, but it's going to be the most stereotypical, like, pitfall. We're going to fridge a woman. We're going to, like, we're going to do all the bad things. We're going to make, we're going to do the angry black man trope for no fucking reason. We're going to make him a terrorist and say that his ideas are bad. Anyway, this is my Saw Gerrera speech.
I don't actually
anyway,
yeah.
Or we're going to do all these things, and you're like, thank you for nothing. Or, we're going to erase Finn or whatever. The MCU does the same thing. And this is why I've said, I was like, you know what? I'm happy there's no gay people. Because, well, there are some gay people, and we did get
I would like to say that The Rise of Skywalker gets unfair hate for its stunning user representation when two unnamed lesbians kiss in the background of a shot that moves like literally that fast and it's over, okay?
You know what?
That advanced gay rights so far.
That's better than making Tarkin gay, because making Tarkin gay, that's a hate crime. He is a fascist.
So I do agree. Before I say what I'm about to say, I do want to agree. There is definitely a problem with Star Wars, and again with I think most major franchise media, where they're like, we want representation. All of our women of color and all of our LGBTQ plus people are going to be a member of a fascist regime like the Empire. So that's a huge problem. I also want to say something that I have trouble with as an adult who is consuming media that is primarily targeted towards children is a lot of the times these characters do have to be kind of like a Machiavellian stereotypes. Someone that you can pit the entire thing on. Like we had this conversation about Thrawn in Rebels. It's like Thrawn is a very deep character in the books, and he's very complex. And a lot of it is like Thrawn is against violence against innocents. He does everything he can to preserve the lives of those involved. In Rebels, he's like, let me just blow up a dude on a motorbike real quick just to prove a point. But my thing is like, yeah, Thrawn said, I think I'm gonna kill this man for the lols. Do it for the vine. Okay.
This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful blue wife. Like
male wife Thrawn, anyway. But I do think like there's something to talk about there in saying like in books like the Thrawn books, which are geared more towards adults, you can do stuff like that where you have that nuance. But a lot of the times in shows for kids, movies for kids, you can't get there. However, I think that leads to a really difficult intersection where you want to have these villains that represent a diverse group, maybe it's like a fasci empire, but like they represent a lot of beliefs within that empire. But because it's a kids show, they don't actually go into the nuance of it. And it just makes it really muddled, and it makes it like, oh, we have a woman of color, so you should be happy. But it's like, no, actually, can we maybe get like some nuance? And that's always something that I battle with. I feel like you guys probably do.
Oh yeah,
as well.
no, every single fucking time I'm like, well, you know what, maybe it's a commentary on the fact that within fascism, like, you know, everybody, like, you know, there's a lot of people who have to participate in the military industrial complex, et cetera, and I'm like, lower your expectations, this is Star Wars, please.
I do think though that one of the problems I have with that, because like Ollie, you're very, very correct that like because it's kids media that adults consume, it has to be less complex because you cannot take your 7-year-old to like see Schindler's List. Like they're gonna be like, what is happening? It's not possible. But the problem that we run into is that some of those characters become so far reduced to their worst forms because like Saw Gerrera, perfect example, is a really complicated character because I mean I'm like I say Saw rights, like he should do it, but you can't present that to a child as like, is militancy bad or good when you're resisting a fascist empire? They don't even know what the word fascism means. They're 8. Like, but then at the same time, the adults who consume this media stop there. They're like, well, he sucks and I hate him. Like, I had someone in my comment section today who is in their 20s being like, Saw is a terrible character because he's too militant. And I'm like, you are a grown-ass adult. You need to pull back and do some research before you come in my comment section saying shit like that. Like, pull back. But that's why I'm like,
that's an ongoing
it's a hard
problem.
line to toe.
That's an ongoing problem in fandom, anything in general, where people can't like separate like, oh, I don't like what this character does, and oh, I don't like what the writers have made this character. They cannot do the critical thinking separation. That I see it so constantly. It's like, oh, come on, just take one more little step. Come on, you can do it. But actually you were saying of like, oh, they flatten people, whatever. My first reaction to this episode as it was airing was, holy shit, this is much like some of the glimmering moments of the Clone Wars that I love dearly. This episode was one of the few moments in Star Wars where I'm like, oh, they balanced this quite well. And Dave is quite good at it, and all of them we attribute it to Dave, but it's a lot of people. But like I was like, oh, this is the first time I've seen, again, the bar's on the ground. Oh, they've really balanced like, you know, moments for kids and characterization and exposition and emotion and all the shit and you know, and bringing in all the baggage of Order 66 and whatever with like some complex political shit. And I was like, wow, this is like a deft, I don't know if that's the right word, like a balanced hand here that I was like, wow, this is very finely crafted, and you do not get this very much in Star Wars. I'm used to having this food in other things. Like I was like, oh, this was like watching an episode of Full Metal Alchemist, and I'm not prepared for that in Star Wars. I'm not prepared for that level of quality.
I can't wait for the next episode when Tarkin makes a chimera. I think I agree. I think unless anyone else has anything to add on the fashy issues of Star Wars, I know we still have a couple points that we want to talk about.
I have one last thing. I just want to end on with like fascism in Star Wars. I think like I'm not trying to find the words to say it even, like, because, and I think about this a lot because I'm like, George Lucas, what the fuck were you doing with the prequels? Because I see some moments of intentionality of like who he's making the separatists and how that those caricatures are to like be like, when the Empire rises, this is how xenophobia happens, because he has characterized all these like aliens as the bad guys and the Emperor can do that, whatever. But because George Lucas, as much as he can have his Soch major moment, he like has never been a direct like victim of Imperial violence, and none of the writers of Star Wars have really ever been in that place of like at the margin of like Imperial and colonial violence. And so that is also a problem, I think, just in Star Wars and in a larger like writing sense, where it's like, okay, you can talk all about this, but where is your experience and how is that shading this whole entire story? But yeah, anyways, Kallus Emperor.
Go off.
You're right, and you should say it.
Okay, we just said we weren't going to say that. Just so you guys know, we all have some funny names in our chat that we are going to discuss later. And Mel has just uttered mine, and we're not ready to unpack all of that yet. So let's there's a couple other points that we had sort of had about the Bad Batch. Mine that I just want to say, Kanan Jarrus, Italian icon.
Hey,
let's go on.
Caleb, I was like, hey, Dave. Hey, hi. You can't just throw Caleb Doom and Depa Balaba at me, and then Order 66, and then Saw Gerrera, and then everything else. Like, you can't put all that in one app. Like, Dave, hey bestie, I can't do this today. I was like, hi. I told a bunch of people they didn't have to watch Rebels to catch up before they got here. And well, this is a part of another thing where I was like, because we're gonna talk later about Cut Lockwayne, but where I was like, Dave really said, hey bestie, you do have to watch all of the shows. You cannot skip episodes. Sorry, bitch. And I really do respect him for that. And he kind of did that in The Mandalorian too, where he was like, hey, if you haven't watched all of it, even the most obscure shit, sucks for you.
Y'all remember Bo-Katan?
This is a fun Mandalorian moment, is the fact that I am currently watching it with my mom, who's not a Star Wars person. She's seen most of the movies up until like the time of The Mandalorian. She hasn't seen the sequels. She hasn't watched any of the shows. I've been reading the Thrawn books and I've been talking to her about it a lot. And I'm 100% prepared for the Ahsoka episode for us to get there and for her to be like, I have no idea who this is. And she's like, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? And she's going to be like, oh, Thrawn. How does she know Thrawn? Is his country boy with him?
I conditioned my Discord the same way. They had only seen The Mandalorian. They had never seen the movies before. I had them watch all the movies. And then they were like, fuck it, we're going to watch the Clone Wars. But they hadn't seen the Clone Wars. We watched The Phantom Menace. Duel of the Fates begins, and they all go, oh, we get it. We get why you're a Maul fucker. Immediately. They all immediately became Maul fans, hadn't even seen the Clone Wars. Then they watched Solo, and they were like, oh, this is my favorite Star Wars movie now. Again, hadn't seen the Clone Wars yet. Maul shows up on screen, and they start screaming on the voice chat and whatever. And I was like, so I've conditioned you people. Oh shit.
Pavlov's Maul.
Anyway,
I would just like to shame Klaudia a little bit for how shamelessly you said the word mallfucker and then just didn't like figure out that at all. The way that you were like, you said it like it was the weather. The same way that I'm like, oh, it's like 75. You're like, yeah, as a mallfucker. And I'm like, pull back, start over. Let's pause for a second. Let's realign. Huh? Like, just wanted to throw that out there. Maybe you know, as gay people, we're really accustomed to shame and like living through it. Maybe we should be a little bit less accustomed to it. You know, maybe we should like keep more to ourselves.
I do just want to say this is coming from someone whose display name is currently Craig, which is for Django and Craig Dooku. So, you know, maybe move out of your glass house before you start throwing stones. And I'm saying I know that my display name right now is Kallus mpreg. So let's stay playful together.
All right,
let's get back to the original plot of the movie.
Let's get back on track now.
Jess, would you like to discuss Omega Trans Icon? Because we need to have a discussion.
Where do I even start with Omega Trans Icon?
There's so much good content there, and it's all canon.
Yeah.
I know. I was thinking about the people in my chat before, in my comments, coming for me and being like, Omega can't be trans because, you know, if she was already born a girl, then how is she trans? Because Django, she's a Django clone.
Also, she could be an intersex icon. We don't know.
We don't yes.
And we don't need to know. We don't need to know what's going on with the child. We just need a trans icon.
I'd rather not know. I would rather not have them like, openly be like, let us just like, oh, can you imagine episode 4 just titled Omega's Gender and that we just sit there for an hour?
That's episode 16
with that one. No, but like
said, I think this is what the trans want.
Omega literally like, I mean, we don't know. She could have been born a boy, and then she was like, I'm a girl now. And the Kaminoans were like, okay.
I mean, we could also get there
people
where...
are like, no, go.
Okay, because I was going to say something kind of serious, so no, I don't want to kill the mood. It's not that serious. but I do want to say like something about like this is not gonna happen. So I don't even know why I'm paying it this time of mine, but it could be like Omega's born a boy, and then she's like, actually, I'm a girl, and the Kaminoans are like, okay,
Dave Filoni's getting his GLAAD award. He's getting
it. Dave Filoni really said, I think I'm gonna make a commentary about trans people. I'm gonna go all in. No, I don't think that's gonna happen. I would not want that to happen in Star Wars. I've decided that there is no transphobia because I've said so. I am now Kathleen Kennedy. Thank you all for coming. But yeah,
It's
I do
totally
think,
possible
yeah.
though that Omega was born a boy and then decided, no, I'm a girl, because like Omega probably also was like, you know what, I'm gonna be blonde now too.
Period.
And if Omega can be blonde, then Omega can be a girl too.
Just like Rex.
I would like to think that
Yes!
Omega saw Rex in a hallway one time and was like,
Yes.
am I trans? Like, that was the whole process.
She said, I don't want to be like him.
Literally.
She said, I have opposite
also, I
gender
don't know.
envy.
She said she saw
I
Rex
think
and
about
said,
this
I
a
want to be
lot.
whatever the opposite of that is. I say this as
Literally,
a Rex lover.
he's gonna see them and be like, hello? I don't know. Something I think about a lot though, whenever any like heteros on the internet complain about like the gay agenda or the trans agenda in Star Wars, I'm like, do you really believe that there are gay and trans people involved in the writing and creation of Star Wars? Okay, pull back for a second, please. Like, they're like, this is what the gay people want. And I'm like, you think they listen to us? What? You think they have any idea what we want? No.
Star
They
Wars
think Love
is gay and
Simon is the
homophobic.
peak of activism.
Yeah, I agree.
Oscar Isaac and John Boyega doing their fucking hardest, and that's it.
There's only
Bless
two
them,
headies I
honestly.
respect.
Look, when it comes down to it, they're the only two heterosexuals I'm keeping around. That's it. Everyone else, your time is up. You're on thin ice. But like
Pedro
those two,
McGregor, you're on thin fucking ice. Let's move on to King Cutler Quain, who we had. This is something that I think I would categorize as a spoiler, but it's not really because it hasn't happened. There was a leaked image that had some thumbnails from the Bad Batch on Disney Plus from the listing. And the first one was called Aftermath. And it was the same thumbnail that has now been, like, now we see that that's what it is. And it had the title and image for the first 3 episodes. Episode 2 is called Cut and Run. And the description is like, oh, the Batch is going to go see an old confidant or an old contact. And it's like, well, cut Laquan.
Well, people also
Icon.
said that the sector they said they were going to has the planet that he's on, which I was too stupid to figure out. I was like, oh, they're going to see Rex, and people were like, no, it's Cut Laquan, and I was like, ah.
yeah, I'm very much in the same boat. They were like, we're going to this sector, and I'm like, I sure hope I know where that is. Like, I don't. If you name a planet in Star Wars that isn't like Yavin 4, I'm like, or Lothal, I'm like, I haven't heard of her. I don't know where that is, and I've never been there, and I don't know how to use a map. I'm gay. GPS is too much for me.
Rex is not someone that they could be contacting right now because it's just post Order 66. So that motherfucker could be anywhere and they're just like, whatever. So I was like, maybe it's Cut and his beautiful MILF wife. And I'm very excited to see another MILF. I'm basically on the Star Wars MILF agenda.
And I love that for you. I will say, I am here to say, I think that the only, this is a deep cut. I think the only logical explanation is that the Bad Batch goes back to Onderon and find Rex living with his husband Saw Gerrera.
Obviously.
And I'm now here to push the Rex Saw agenda because that's just the only thing that makes sense. I'm sorry,
Rex
Dave.
Agenda.
Dave, come on. Let's give me the crumbs,
I
Dave.
would like to think that when Saw was like, pack it up, we're leaving, he walked through the trees and Rex was right there waiting for him and was like, hey babe. Like, and he's like, you guys are clones back there? I don't know them. We're not friends. Those people are weird. Like, completely right.
Like, put me in a chokehold. Like, fuck those guys.
Wait. Okay.
Literally.
Rex said they really didn't care when Cody got pinned by a giant. Like, they really were homophobic when they didn't help Cody immediately. Like, that's I don't deal with that.
I know we moved on from Omega, but to be serious for a second, we all agree that she's Force sensitive, right? Like,
absolutely.
They're like,
absolutely.
oh, she's very perceptive, and like, oh, like she definitely knows that he still has his chip in, and they're like, how did you know how to use the gun? She's like, I don't know, and she was able to like, Han Solo shoot first over Crosshair, which first of all, my Han Solo Force sensitive theory keeps on trucking. But I was like, so we're all in agreement And literally as soon as she went up to the front, of course me with my brain worms, I was like, is Omega gonna skywalk? Is she gonna skywalk?
Thrawn
The way my mind immediately went there, I was like, just like she like because just how that part of the episode is framed, where it's like they're all like looking at Wrecker who's like being hurt or whatever, and she's just like, oh, at the front of a ship, I'm going to go see space for the first time. Bye, idiots. And then walks over there and just, oh my god, I had such intense flashbacks to fucking Thrawn Chaos Rising when he's like, hey Cheery, wanna fucking learn how to pilot a ship, bitch? And she's like, hell fucking yeah. Flashbacks. Anyways, continue.
I wasn't super convinced of Force sensitive Omega until I saw the way that like they were acting with the clone, like the whole like hand on the shoulder thing. I was like, okay, I've because at first I was like, yeah, they have enhanced senses, but like so does Hunter apparently, allegedly. I all I really want is a shot of him in the Bad Batch like sniffing the air like Tyler, not Tyler, Jacob from Twilight. I want him to like sense the air and like run after something. But yeah, I buy Force sensitive Omega because they seem to get like more emotion from their weird sense stuff than they do like physical shit. Like, yeah, they were like, there's someone here, but the Force can do that.
It's also a Dave show, and as we know, that means grown men, Force sensitive magic child. It's gotta be.
Yep.
It's Ahsoka. It's Grogu. I mean, because there were a lot of parallels to the Mandalorian, very specifically in this, where like when Grogu saves Din, and like it was like a big climax, whatever. Like, you know, all of that, you know, has saved him several times, and like, you know, when they defy orders to save Grogu, and like whatever, because he has special powers, he's a special child, and like, I mean, Ahsoka too is also magical, but like, I was like, come on.
Here's a fun little Grogu moment that I will say. The other day I did post a TikTok. I'm so sorry, this is so out of nowhere. I did post a TikTok talking about how Dave Filoni likes to put children in combat, which I do think fits sort of with what we're talking about, because I think that's quite provable, which, you know, he takes after George Lucas. But I made that, and I was like, some of my examples were Ahsoka and Ezra and Grogu. I had like 5 people in my comments trying to tell me Grogu's not a child. And I was like, I know chronologically he's 50, but that is a baby. He is a child.
That little girl is a child. Boy, have you lost your mind, because I'll help you find it.
But I did want to say, talking about Force sensitive Omega, here's something that I want to posit. When they were about to have that food fight scene, and the other clones were like, hey, why'd that kid just throw something at us? And Hunter walked up and put his hand on the shoulder and was like, you don't want to do this, like just walk away. And then he did. I was like, oh, Force sensitive Hunter? Crumbs? Clone Force sensitive Crumbs?
That is his like I don't really know what his like power is, but he's like
his power is like increased senses. That's what his official like Star Wars summary website is like. Hunter has increased senses. He's good
at vibe checking.
He's a vibe checking king. But here's what that makes me think of. That makes me think of in I think you know what I'm gonna say. In Thrawn Alliances, when Anakin is talking about how he fights using the Force, he uses this thing that's like, oh, I have double vision. So you have double vision, so I kind of see what's gonna happen, and then
Omega
I avoid it.
And soup, double vision.
Oh,
yes. No. Okay, exactly. So what I'm saying is it would make sense. I don't know if this is going to happen. This might be a crackpot theory, but it would make sense if Hunter is Force sensitive and Omega knows he's Force sensitive, or that they are the same. And that's why Omega wants so hard to like be like him and is imitating him, because they're like, we're the same. But Hunter has no idea that that's what his thing is. And Omega knows that they are not the same. Like, they know that like, oh, this is my thing. I'm something special, and so you're the same as Hunter, me. And Hunter doesn't get that.
You're saying that the Rey is stored in the Hunter, not the Grogu.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Not
yes.
the Rey.
The Rey is stored in the Hunter, not the Grogu. You're saying that Hunter is the like they accidentally made a Force sensitive clone. Oh my God. What if they accidentally made a Force sensitive clone with him, and then they tried to do another one to make Omega? Oh my god.
But here's my like interpretation of the Force, and we could like have a longer conversation about this, but I know we want to probably move on to, we have many more segments, so this I will punctuate as being my last moment of stupid theory. My theory about the Force has kind of been like, it's not a genetic thing. So like in the Skywalker line, the Force is very strong, and it's because it's like similar to the Darksaber, to Bo-Katan talking about it. It's like it doesn't, and what's his name, the guy, Moff Gideon, saying like the Darksaber doesn't care about like whatever, it wants there to be a story, like there's a narrative here. And I feel like that's kind of how the Force works, where it's like George. Okay, it makes sense for it makes sense for someone like Luke and Leia to have the Force, because Anakin, like his part in the story of the world is so big. So it's like, so I don't think that.
So you're saying the Force is a messy bitch who lives for drama?
Yes, exactly. So I'm saying like, I don't think that the Force is necessarily genetic. So I think that they wouldn't, because if it was, like they would literally just make a bunch of Force sensitive clones, except for the idea that Lucasfilms is like, actually, the clones can't be Force sensitive because like they're not naturally born, which is such a mess. I don't even want, that's some Macbeth bullshit. But I just
does that
say,
mean
like,
that if you have a clone by C-section, they have the Force? If we're going off of the Macbeth narrative,
I honestly have no idea, and I don't want to know. Star Wars, please do not make me know things.
Wait,
but I do think that is possible, that Hunter happened and they were like, oh, this kid's a little bit different.
A little bit of a side tangent about experimentation. So Crosshair walks out basically in Death Trooper armor, and a little bell went off in my brain because they just did the extra juice on his brain. I don't know. They did the extra juice on his brain, and Tarkin was like, more. I'm doing the Kylo Ren impression. But they did the extra juice on his brain, and then I remembered. I was like, oh, remember in Thrawn Treason when Ronan and Eli are hanging with some Death Troopers, and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with these dudes? And these guys are like, yeah, we volunteered to be tested on to become assholes. And I was like, wait, so you're telling me that the backstory for the Death Trooper program is Crosshair being tortured by Tarkin? Is that what you're saying? Anyway,
Thrawn is essential reading for the Bad Batch. Okay. Thrawn is essential reading.
But here's the thing. Sorry, I'm so sorry to bring this back to the Force and Thrawn, but I just keep on thinking about this because there's such a big concept in Star Wars in general, where it's like you have to have faith in the Force, right? Like it's like trust only in the Force. So you have to have that confidence within yourself to be like, yes, I have the Force. And that's why I think that the Skywalkers, the children of the Chiss ascendancy, lose their powers, is because they've been conditioned that they can't after a certain age, right? Noah's nodding. I don't know if you've read any of the Thrawn books.
I haven't, but I've seen every single one of your videos on pretty much every aspect of Thrawn at this point. So I basically have like a board of pins with red twine. And I'm like, okay, this guy's from this one, this happened. So I saw you talk about this idea that Chiss children like lose their Force sensitivity because of that. Because like I knew that, because at one point I was like, could Thrawn have the Force? And the internet was like, no, like
only girls.
No, he cannot. I'm like,
girl boss moment.
That's why I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. So I did know about that, and I agree with Ollie that like it just doesn't make sense for the Force to be like super genetic. And it, prior to the prequels, it wasn't, like even in like Legends material and stuff, it wasn't necessarily like a thing you inherited. Which also, I mean, for me, this is why I'm a Rey Nobody stan, because that would have been a really cool moment to have a very Force sensitive person with no like reason to be that. Like it's weird to me because whenever I have people that get like really into like the idea of like the Force of genetics, so like you have to have like it's not like the mutant gene in X-Men. You can't pass it on, like, because we know nothing of the histories largely of like a ton of other Jedi. Like I would argue Avar Kriss from Light of the Jedi is a very, very Force sensitive person. Who the hell are her parents? Like what? Like
I want to see Punnett squares.
Use it as an argument.
I want to see.
Yeah.
No, because in Avatar fandom, we were doing fucking Punnett squares for people to try and figure out like what's going on with how people figure out bending and whatever. Because I was saying like, you know, I was talking a whole thing about airbenders or whatever, and I was like, oh, if you want to do Punnett square kind of shit for Star Wars, it's not gonna track. Like there's no logic to it at all. Like,
well, and even with that though, like with some of the lore of Avatar that actually ties back into this idea like the Force is more spiritual, is that before the extinction of the Air Nation, all air nomads were airbenders because they were so spiritually connected to their own bending that none of them were non-benders. And I'm like, look, it just doesn't make sense for the Force to be like, because if it were
like the Night Sisters,
why couldn't you get like a blood transfusion of the Force and be like, well, I'm a Jedi now, and
that's literally what Palpatine's trying to do.
Mandalorian.
That's literally what he's trying to do.
But I'm like, I don't think that's possible. And it
I
says
agree.
protecting the body, but I'm like, can we not do anatomy of wizard powers?
Please, no Black Quantum in Star Wars.
Oh, literally, like, can we not? I don't want to deal with that.
When people discussed it with the sequels, I was like, hey, bestie, hi, let's not go down that road. Hey, let's take it back. I know you're talking about bloodlines a lot. I was like, hey, there are main characters in this story who are adopted, a lot of people. And also you're saying the words bloodline a lot, and it's very uncomfortable. I'm gonna need you to roll that clock back.
This is a fun Star Wars moment too, is again, I will add, I've been watching Star Wars with my mom, and they were talking about how powerful Anakin was, and she was like, is Qui-Gon his dad? And I was like, please don't say that right now. I'm trying to watch Star Wars, and I really like, I mean, he should be, but he's not, but we're not going to get into that. But I do want to say, unless anyone has anything else they want to talk about, do we want to wrap up our thoughts about the Bad Batch? What do we got? We're getting a little...
we didn't talk about Saw Gerrera, my base king.
We did. I think we actually did.
We did.
Okay.
We did.
I'm just
you
saying,
just blacked out. You were so excited.
All I'm gonna say
are we talking about like how he looked like how he was looking like a snack, or
first of all, number one, he looked like a snack. Second of all, his little speech where he like just laid it down about the galaxy. I was like, first of all, this is why I have always said Saw Gerrera is one of very few characters who knew what the fuck was up all the time. And the other character, I know this is a hot take, much like Satine, which I used to be like, what the fuck is going on with Satine, whatever. And then I rewatched it and I was like, oh wait, oh no, she gets it. That's why she's like, I'm not playing these reindeer games. So I'm like, I was sitting there listening to Saw Gerrera in this episode of the Bad Batch, and I was like, oh, so it pretty much the three people who know what the fuck is going on in the entire galaxy, while everyone else is like, I don't know, are Maul, Satine, and Saw Gerrera, and that's it.
And you know what? They're
all day.
Well,
yes,
of course.
Except for the fact that like all of them are on exact opposite ends of a triangle. I don't really know what the triangle is, but I know that they're on opposite ends.
The light, the dark, and the Bendu.
Oh my god, that's it. You've cracked the code.
I guess Saw is the Bendu.
Saw is the Bendu, Maul is the dark, and Satine is the light. There we go. Let's go. Bad Batch.
We connected the dots. We connected them.
You haven't connected shit.
Brother, sister, father.
Not talking Satine's father.
If Saw can be Jin's father, Saw can be Satine's father.
Saw is just adopting literally anyone he sees at this point.
He's like, is anyone going to take care of this white child?
18 kids. Rex and Saw Gerrera have 18 children and counting. I would love, they're going to see Omega and be like, we'll take that off your hands. If you don't want it anymore, we'll just scoop her up. Like,
I'm fucking obsessed with this. Okay, the idea of I can't. I had a point to make, and now I don't remember it because you were talking. Man, I'm just saying my ultimate. I'm just saying the dyad in the Force, Kylo Ren, Rey. I don't know that the dyad in the Force is Saw Gerrera, Satine, and Maul. That's a triad, but my point still stands. I'm sorry. If J.J. Abrams had watched Rebels, he would know about the Bendu, and he wouldn't have made it a dyad. I'm just saying, J.J. Abrams, I'm not here to be like, oh, I hate the sequels, but like, watch Rebels. I promise you'll enjoy it, King.
Literally, when that movie started, he was talking about a Sith Wayfinder. I was like, you mean a Sith holocron? Bitch who's never watched Rebels? Get it together. Get it together.
Do your homework. Do your homework.
JJ, honestly, I feel like, I'm not very much into the gatekeep gaslight girl boss thing, but when it comes to J.J. Abrams, I might be. Suddenly my gender is girl boss when I see J.J. Abrams, and I begin to feel gatekeepy.
No.
I I don't like his approach to directing, but that's a much bigger box to open
We
than
don't have time
the
to
Bad
unpack
Batch.
all of that.
Next episode.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone,
Yeah, that's
final thoughts.
another time.
Let's do final thoughts on the Bad Batch, and then we will move on to another fun segment that we have prepared. We've been recording for about 17 hours, just so you're gonna have a lot of content. Okay, Mel has just dropped in our chat. Execute Order Girlboss. That's what happens. Palpatine executes Order Girlboss. He's like, Commander Cody, execute Order Girlboss. And he sees Obi-Wan and he's like, well, he's a male wife, so he's not a girl boss. I gotta kill him. I'm just saying, I'm still firm in my theory. Satine and Obi-Wan are gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss, and mansplain, manipulate, male wife. And I don't really have anything else to say.
No, and Cody is what did I say? Threaten. I said threaten. What was the second one?
Not your assumption that Cody is a them boss. I mean, okay, I am
them what?
over they them Cody. That's actually pretty valid. Cody's a very gender neutral name, so I do vibe with that.
I think I said what did I say? I said threaten the.
I don't remember. We're gonna have to come back.
I have dementia, so I don't actually know what you said.
Yeah, I don't think I was there, so I don't know.
All right,
I remember reading the word "them boss" and I was like, "I'm leaving. Gotta go bye."
Okay, let's get back to the plot.
I found it.
Oh,
threaten, throw down them boss.
I feel like we need to come up with something better than them boss, but it's like, because I feel like girl boss and male wife, like those are like, we need something in the middle for them boss, not to insinuate that there are three genders.
Bendu boss.
Thrawn boss?
Bendu boss works, but it's
Thrawn
a TH. Thrawn boss is, but I feel like it's not the them, it's the boss part. But we can talk about this in a later episode.
I think just Bendu.
Wait, can we discuss that Kevin Kiner responded to me on Reddit?
Yes. Let us go ahead and put a pin in this and say, I think all of us enjoyed the Bad Batch. All of us are looking forward to it. We will be talking about the Bad Batch more, probably have a bit more of an organized episode next time. But I feel like we're doing pretty good for our first test run.
Dave Filoni paid for my therapy.
This is the first time we've spoken ever together.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of realized that when we were like getting ready to make this. I was like, I have never actually directly used my voice with these people, because the thing about TikTok is I wouldn't say that I'm presenting a farce, because I'm not, but I do a lot of takes of every one of my videos. So it's very polished, and then the real me is a living, breathing mess. Like, if I film a TikTok, I am doing that 17 straight times in a row, no matter what it is. And then I'm like, well, we're done here. Whereas talking, I'm a problem. I am an issue. I did not come to make things easy. I made them difficult.
I think the best compliment I ever received was someone meeting me, knowing me from the internet, and going, wow, you really are exactly the way you present yourself on the internet. And I was like, I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment, but thank you.
It's a statement.
I feel like if someone said that to me, I would be insulted, considering my current display name is Kallus mpreg, and that is not great for the professional environment. Probably not going to be showing this one to my mom.
My nightmare is that an employer finds my TikTok, because the idea of someone being like, so yesterday you made a video categorizing different types of hot dads. I want to talk about that. And I'm like, I'd like to do the job interview now. Like, I would leave. Because literally in my bio it says DILF enthusiast. Like, well.
I work with freshman high schoolers. My fear every single day is that they will find my TikTok.
Bold of you to assume they haven't already.
Yeah.
Don't put that out there.
They already know about the they're like, nobody tell
TikTok
them.
knows where
Nobody
you
say
live.
anything to Mel.
That's like how you assume teachers don't go home during like, it's like the kids who think teachers just sleep at the school. They're like, oh, well, Mel just like leaves school and goes on to TikTok, and that's where they live. But anyway, okay, so I keep saying we're gonna wrap it up. Bad Batch good, mostly. Some
yes,
some
I enjoyed it
moments,
very much.
but all of us,
Who's My Baby
like
Is This? It's a great television show.
Other than all of the white children, it was very good.
Yes.
And I'm happy to see the animation style maintained from Clone Wars. I do love Rebels. I will not accept slander about Rebels. However, I firmly support the Clone Wars art style more than I do the Rebels one, and I was happy to see them make that artistic choice. I just think it looks more polished right now.
They had that Disney money. I was like, ooh, this is crisp.
Let's then in this case, let's go ahead. We have a brief interlude before we get into more cursed content. Kevin Kiner, who is the composer for Clone Wars, and for now The Bad Batch, and I believe he also did Rebels. So he did a AMA on Reddit, and Klaudia did ask him a question. Let's hear how it went.
Yeah, I was actually reading all of his responses and like crying, sobbing. He also apparently did Narcos. He's done like a lot of shit. And a couple of the Star Wars games as well. And he was answering a lot of people's questions, and his answer for me was like really detailed. I was like, wow. So basically what I basically asked him about like one of my I am a musician, so the reason I like Star Wars is the music, and one of my favorite parts of the Clone Wars is every time Anakin does something bad, they're like, hit that Imperial March button, and it makes me laugh every time. And so now I'm guiding my friends through the Clone Wars, and I have pointed this out to them, and we might be chatting while we're watching whatever, and I'll be like, everybody stop, they're playing the music, and like whatever. So I said this to him, and I was like, listen, like we have a bingo card at this point. I was like, what was the process to decide this? I was like, was it just natural? Did did Dave be like, yeah, we're gonna hit the by the way, Anakin's Vader button today? Like, what was the process? And he had a really good answer. He was like, the answer to that is fairly complicated, but I'll share a few insights. First of all, George Lucas did not want John Williams themes to be used very often in the Clone Wars. It was his vision that the music take on a new path with different ethnic influences as well as new themes. Yeah, George, we know that you like cultural appropriation. However, he and Dave Filoni both would point out special areas where we should use, say, the Force theme or the Imperial March. Oh, so they really did say, hit that button. I used to refer to it as bringing out the big guns. This is exactly what I imagined. This way, when those themes would play, they really meant something and really stood out. However, there are also more obscure references to some of John's themes throughout the Clone Wars, and they may be what you're hearing. Sir, I did hear them. I absolutely did, sir. The process for those is that possibly Dave Filoni may tell me to have a bit of an Imperial flavor here, but nothing too overt. Or other times I'll start out with the first few notes of the Force theme and then take the melody in a new direction. I think this sets up a subliminal feeling of Star Wars without overusing these iconic, wonderful melodies. First of all, I love being right. Second of all, I love the idea of Dave just being like, let's do it.
Dave being like, I think this could be a little bit more sister. If I get some Imperial March for the table, will you guys have some? Can we get some Imperial March for the table?
I do like that it was deliberate though, because I whenever I saw that, I was like, yeah, we get it. Thank you for letting me know that Anakin is Vader. We're very aware. But I do like that was like a choice to heighten things. I do sort of wonder what that experience was like for people watching the Clone Wars who hadn't seen the rest of the Star Wars movies. Like when I was a kid just getting into it, I saw the Clone Wars first. So I was like, whom is, and then in the middle of the Clone Wars, I watched every other Star Wars movie and I was like, oh. So I kind of wonder, like, I wonder how that played a role in that, because I wasn't surprised. And they were like, Anakin's Darth Vader, and I was like, that makes sense. Like, I see that for him. That journey. He was headed there for a long time.
Sorry, oh my god, I'm so bad at interrupting. We'll have to work on this. Something that I think is a really good point about that, and about you brought up like people who haven't seen who Clone Wars may have been their first interaction with Star Wars. I think that there's a lot of sort of cultural knowledge. Like I think a lot of people know Anakin Skywalker is Luke Skywalker's dad, and he's also Darth Vader. And I feel like if you don't know anything about Star Wars, there's like a pretty big chance that you're going to know the line, Luke, I am your father. So it's like, it's not a big jump to say, oh, that's Luke Skywalker. And then you hear the name Anakin Skywalker and you're like, that must be his dad. For example, like I'm going to keep using her for content, but my mom, who's never seen any Star Wars movie, she knew Anakin Skywalker was Luke's dad. Had no idea what Anakin Skywalker showed. Like she saw Dooku and was like, is that Anakin? And I was like, no, it is not. But
not my maid man, Craig.
This is not my beautiful house. But I do think like there's probably a certain level of like how much can you foreshadow and how much can you make it effective when everyone, most likely at least all of the people who are old enough to really appreciate it. I'm so sorry. The chat.
I'm so sorry.
Our chat is off.
Mel, you have got to stop with this chat. I'm reading it and I'm incapable of like not laughing about it.
Mel just
For those out of the loop, Mel just sent, "This is not my beautiful Craig." I hate it here.
Okay. I don't even remember what I was trying to say. God damn, I guess it doesn't.
Anyway, since we're talking about Craig Dooku, I think that's a good transition into a segment we will be bringing back.
Oh, sorry. Let me finish. I remember what I was going to say. I'm sorry. Okay. So
this is peak Star Wars fans.
Honestly, gay people shouldn't have rights. That was my point. No. What I'm saying, I'm kidding. /J. What I meant to say is sort of how much musical foreshadowing can you do, knowing that most of your audience knows what is going to happen. So it's like, I might not know what's going to happen in season 5 of the Clone Wars if I'm on season 1, but I know at the end, Revenge of the Sith is going to happen. Like, I know Anakin's going to become Vader. I know Obi-Wan's going to go to Tatooine. Like there are certain things that you just know. And the question as a composer is like, how do you play with the expectation and how do you make it effective instead of feeling so shoehorned, like, okay, we know he's Vader. And I think people like Kevin Kiner, like I remember the first time rewatching Clone Wars when it got put on Disney Plus, hearing the Imperial March and being like, oh, that's like, I didn't appreciate that when I was in like 2012 watching this, but yeah.
I think for me, like, because I think about that a lot too, because someone who likes to understand how suspense can be done correctly, when the Clone Wars season 7 came out and they were like, we're going to follow Ahsoka at the end of the war, I was like, okay, but like, we know where she's going. We know that she and Rex survive. We just don't know how we get there. And that to me was really good suspense. Like, that's what I kind of liked about the Clone Wars was like, you know where Anakin ends up, but the path he takes to get there is interesting to watch, even if you already know. I think honestly, Star Wars works better with that huge cultural knowledge that we know where half these characters end up. Like, we know what happens to Vader. And most people honestly know what happens to Obi-Wan and Yoda. Like, because those fates are already known, you have a lot more like room to work with. And it's sort of like, did I know that Caleb was going to survive Order 66? Obviously, like, duh. But watching him go through it still sucked. Didn't enjoy it.
Not to be like serious or have a TED talk or anything, but you were saying like it's better when we know what's gonna happen, right? And that's why the sequels felt like, oh dear God, what's gonna happen? A lot of people always say like, oh, the TV shows are the best, whatever. And it's not just that, it's that Star Wars thrives in the connective tissue, and this is why people like the prequels nowadays of like in the connective tissue of like, we know what's gonna happen. Like, Star Wars is like always expanding like between set points, which is a thing that most other things cannot do. So, and it thrives in the connective tissue area because it's like, what flowers can grow from the crack in the concrete is basically what it is. And so it's, and that, and that's why the sequels are so hard or whatever. And so that's why in this essay I will, that's why Star Wars is gay. Because that's what queerness is about, being within the margins, finding the meaning within the margins. In this essay I will. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Anyway.
Okay, I will take it upon myself to go to the next segment. I promise, guys, episode 2, we're going to have this down like a well-oiled machine. We're going to be running like freaking C-3PO before he got his clothes. In Phantom Menace, when R2 is like, hey, you're naked, and he's like, oh. Man, what am I doing? What am I talking about?
We're going to be C-3PO before he got lobotomized.
You can't just say that.
The fact that I
totally before he went to the spa.
Anyway. Okay. Anyway, here's the last segment we would like to posit before we end this incredibly long podcast episode. Cursed things of the week. There's been one thing on everyone's mind other than the Bad Batch, and that is everyone's favorite antagonist and gay homophobe, Tarkin. I would like to go ahead. We're not going to summarize all of the Tarkin drama and all of, why is Tarkin gay and homophobic. There are many TikToks about it at this point. You can definitely Google it. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to go into it, but it did happen, and I do need everyone to know that Tarkin I really could not watch The Bad Batch without being like, Tarkin is eyeing the clones the whole time, and that's a problem for me.
I would like to say what I would consider a very nice cursed sentence, which is that Grand Moff Tarkin has canonically fucked. I want to put that into the universe so we're all equally aware of that. Isn't it great that our limited canonical gay representation is the space fascist? How fun is that? Thank you, George. Really appreciate you for doing this one.
We also have Sinji Rathilis, who is a former Imperial. We also have Dr. Afra, who is an anti-hero and a villain. And then the only heroes I believe we get, and I believe there are some in the High Republic, and the only heroes I think we get, and of course the two lesbians who kiss in the background in Rise of Skywalker. So those are our two hero characters. And then
Gaslight and Girlboss right there.
Absolutely. And then of course we have in Star Wars Resistance, we have Flix and Orca, and they're the only actual ones who are not fascists on screen.
I do think I appreciate all of the crumbs of canon gay we have, but I will say, after reading that story, I read the Tarkin gay story many years ago, and I thought that I had imagined it until just recently. But I will say something that I think is gayer. Maybe the gayest thing to ever happen in Star Wars is the Kallus and Zeb ending in Rebels, which brings us into another cursed topic.
That's just canonical gay representation at that point.
I remember before I watched Rebels, I didn't watch Rebels until it was over, but people were like, oh my God, yes, like these two are so cute together. They're like canon. People are like freaking out. And I was like, surely that's not the case. Surely people are exaggerating. I watched first season. I was like, this seems like something that someone on Tumblr would enjoy. And then at the end, I was like, oh no, that's Dave Filoni really read. He read one gender book. Who am I?
Now, as we know, Kalazeb is furry space Destiel.
I'm gonna have to ask you to shut the hell up.
I need you to cease and desist.
Which one? No, here's the thing. Which one's homophobic and which one gets sent to super hell? That's the real question. If there's space Kalazeb, you need to answer that for me, and you can't.
Is the rebellion not super hell?
No, I actually would like. No. Anyway, moving on.
I'm sorry that
literally the episode
where the sentence "gay man gets sent to super hell" is canonical, valid, exists, and has been seen. Because I remember when I was in middle school, I was like a DCL truther, and then I was like, oh, I have a life. I could do this all the time, and then there just isn't this. So after 6th grade, I was like, we're done here. And then I remember I was literally like, whenever this was, I am now in college, and I read on Twitter, it was like, DCL is canon. I'm like, no fucking way they did this to us.
You want to know? I am a whole adult who was working in the news during the election. So I had a friend text me and go, we won. And I said, what do you mean we won? The election results for this whatever state haven't come out yet. And she said, check Tumblr. And I was like, why would election results be on Tumblr? And she was like, go to the Destiel tag. And I was like, what do you mean? And to be clear, now we're getting into some Klaudia lore. To be clear, I am one of the few people who has continued to watch Supernatural all this time, because the joke was, I've invested this much time in this crap. At this point, fuck it. And I do like trash. I already like Star Wars. I love my garbage. And then I was like,
hang on one second, please. Star Wars is garbage. However, Star Wars is somewhere up here, and you want to compare the 15 some odd season dumpster fire of one of the world's most
we don't have time to unpack all
programs.
Of that. You don't have time to unpack all of that. I'm just saying. I said to myself, if they were to ever do Destiel, which would never happen, I would want to be caught up. Like, it would be the most bonkers thing to ever happen, and I would want to be caught up, right? Now,
no, I feel like I enjoyed it more having not watched it since 2016.
Same.
No, and I have a friend who worked on the show, and so I see Tumblr and I see people freaking out saying something about Destiel, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Destiel is what? First of all, I was mad because it was spoiled for me, because usually like the episodes go up the next day and then I watch them and I was like, you're fucking spoiling the episode for me. And then I was like, I guess I need to pirate the episode and watch it right fucking now. What?
I don't want to judge, but have you considered that there might be something wrong with you?
Oh no, there's definitely something wrong with me, but we don't have time to unpack all of that.
I want to pause it. I will say I have been on Tumblr since maybe 2012, probably longer. That's like when I have the account I had now. I will say there has not been a day since November 5th, 2020 that I have felt so much stimulus in my brain. But I'm not here to talk about Tumblr because I do realize that I said, oh, here's something that's cursed Kallus. That is not what I meant. There is more to that story, and I don't want everyone to think that I'm a homophobe for not liking Kallus and Zeb, because I do. They are the blueprint.
They are, I will say this, the season where Dean and Cass go to purgatory.
You can't keep doing this.
Episode of Kallus and Zeb in the ice planet.
You can't keep getting away with this. You can't keep getting away with this.
I'm gonna mute you.
I'm very uncomfortable with the energy we've created in the studio right now.
I just want to see the archetype of the righteous rebel man, and then the fallen man who changes sides to be with him.
So I know that we said that this podcast is 5 gay people, but right now I'm feeling it's 4. I'm getting very heterosexual energy from this conversation. Just want to put that out there. I'm not saying that Klaudia does not deserve free speech. However, I'm getting there to a point where I'm okay with that sentence.
Honestly, I'm so happy for those of you who are still listening through this hate crime. I am so happy that you guys are still here. I'm just trying to talk about my cursed Kallus mpreg fic that we found about.
Oh, me talking about Destiel is
okay, no, because at least that's about Star Wars. So here's my thing.
It's on topic. It's topic.
This is fruit on fruit violence.
This is fruit on fruit violence. Now I'm going to sound like a total lunatic saying this, but so this was supposed to be our section about cursed, and now we're just talking about Destiel, and it's making me feel
That's
bad.
Cursed. It counts.
Oh, I'm not excusing
those
you.
Are synonyms. Those are synonyms.
I am saying I don't even want to talk about it now. I just want to say we found a fan fiction in which it is
some bold words.
No,
you.
No. You were actually the one who found it and sent it to me, and I read it, and I took one for the team for all of you.
A twist.
So I do want to say, I want to give you all the premise. The premise of this is that Kallus defects from the Empire and then finds out that he's pregnant with Darth Vader's child.
Bessie, I can't do this today.
And General Draven and Mon Mothma slut shame him and are like, did you
say General Grievous?
Draven. Oh my god. No, okay. So this is the plot basically. Kallus is sitting there and Mon Mothma's like, what happened? And he's like, it's not really important, but it is a high-level Imperial's baby. And Draven's like, we can use this. We could use this to our advantage. And
this is a lot.
Please don't say that. And it's a hot mess. But I just wanted to tell you guys, when we reference mpreg Kallus, that is unfortunately what we were talking about. There is an amazing shirt that we will post to our Instagram that I had made as a mock-up that says, it says, Vader, we have your baby mama. Come to the rebellion. And there is a photoshopped image of Kallus on this shirt. And I was saying, this is maybe the funniest thing I've ever created. And what sucks is that no one other than the 5 people here are going to be able to understand why this is so funny. And I honestly think that's my Joker moment. And that's it. That's my magnum opus. I'm so sorry for the hot mess this has become.
Your villain origin story is mpreg Kallus? That's the hill you're dying on?
I can't do this. I can't do this right now.
All right, so thank you guys so much for stopping in. I know we were also going to talk about Vader Pride merch that Disney dropped, but I feel like at this point,
I feel like we're done.
There's another episode coming out this week because
the first Brick at Stonewall,
I think, the first Brick at Stonewall, you know, I mean, we all know.
I thought Tarkin threw the first brick at Stonewall.
Tarkin threw the first mouse droid at Stonewall. And with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We know that this has been a bit much, a lot to process, but we are still sort of getting our sea legs. This is, again, our first time sort of talking to each other in general. Thank you again. We really appreciate your help and everything that you are doing for us now. You can find all of us. Our social medias are all linked in our Instagram bio and our Twitter bio, which is at RuPaul's Pod Race. And we are that on all platforms. So please give us a follow. Please feel free to follow the creators. We really appreciate your support. Happy May 4th, and we will see you next time.
How are we closing this?
I thought that was a pretty good closing.
I thought that was the close.
Oh, I meant like at the end, you know how they like say like waka waka, like the little
I think that's the end.
I would like that to be the end because that was the most.
Which is may the force be with you and don't kriff it up.
We didn't say that at all this episode. Shit.
That's exactly.
Yes. Okay. Can we put that in at the end?
That may have been the most competent thing that any of us said during this entire nightmare of a podcast.
What are you talking about? Waka waka or?
Yes, waka waka.
Period.
Palpatine's catchphrase is waka waka.
So that's Yoda's catchphrase because he's literally fucking Fozzie Bear.